Welcome to a very special deep dive right here on Book on a Shelf. We are so glad you've joined us for this one because today we are exploring one of the most concentrated and just terrifying tragedies in the English language.
We are absolutely tearing into Shakespeare's Macbeth today. And our mission, really, is to perform a kind of granular analysis of the protagonist's rapid descent.
It happens so fast.
It's a psychological collapse that happens faster than almost any other in the canon. We want to understand the nature of ambition when it's, fueled by the supernatural, and just how quickly honor can curdle into wholesale arbitrary slaughter.
And for a deep dive like this, you need good sources. Our sources for this are, frankly, unparalleled. We're relying heavily on the detailed text, the structural analysis, and all the contextual materials provided by the Folger Shakespeare Library. For those of you who might not be familiar, the Folger is the custodian of the world's largest Shakespeare collection. That includes the critical first folio. They are the absolute authority.
They really are. It gives us such a grounded context for understanding this chaotic world. It's the ultimate shortcut to being really well informed about the play.
Yeah.
We're not just reading the words on the page.
No.
We're trying to understand the environment in which they were written and performed. And whether it's their other activities like the Folger Consort, early music ensemble, or their amazing scholarship, these resources let us track Macbeth's whole trajectory.
From valiant cousin at the beginning.
All the way to what Malcolm calls him at the end, a dead butcher. And we're going to do that by focusing on the two key sort of corrosive relationships that sealed his fate. The mystical weird sisters, and of course, the ruthlessly pragmatic Lady Macbeth.
And as the play itself begins, we have to just plunge straight into that chaos. You have to forget the polite world of courtly drama. This thing opens with thunder, lightning, and three terrifying figures.
And they throw down that instant moral challenge.
Fair is foul, and foul is fair. That line is basically the show's thesis statement, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. It tells the audience right away that the entire moral structure of Scotland is about to be turned completely upside down.
The moral compass is just spinning wildly before we even meet the hero.
Exactly. And when Macbeth does appear in the narrative, he is at the absolute peak of his power and his virtue. To really grasp the tragedy, you have to appreciate just how highly he was regarded before these prophecies ever took hold.
Okay, so let's unpack that heroic starting point.
Yeah.
This is our section 1, prophecy and the seed of evil. He's not some minor character aspiring to greatness.
No, not at all. He's the undisputed military champion of the entire realm.
The initial description we get of him in Act 1, Scene 2, it's almost mythic. We hear about him from a character called the Captain.
Right, a soldier who was so battered from the battle they just call him a bloody man. And this captain is reporting back to King Duncan about this horrific fight against a rebel, MacDonald.
And the violence he describes is, well, it's sanctioned. It's celebrated state violence.
It is. The captain calls him Brave Macbeth, and he describes a confrontation that is just stunningly visceral. You want to tell us that definitive quote?
I do. It's where Macbeth kind of establishes his brand of ruthless effectiveness. He confronted MacDonald, and with no hesitation, he unseamed him from the nave to the chops.
I mean, just think about that imagery. This isn't just killing a rebel. This is a public disemboweling. It establishes Macbeth's incredible physical power and his capacity for brutality, but, and this is key, it's all in service of his king.
Which is why the captain calls him Bellona's bridegroom.
Yes.
He's literally married to the Roman goddess of war. He's a man whose defining characteristic is violence, but it's a violence that serves order.
That is the critical distinction. He's a hero because he turns chaos into order for Duncan. But that very capacity for ruthless action is precisely the quality that the witches are about to hijack and turn inward against the state itself.
The dramatic irony is just palpable. The same violence that saves the crown is about to destroy the crown.
And that transformation begins immediately. In Act 1, Scene 3, Macbeth and Banquo stumble upon the three weird sisters, these figures who seem to exist outside the natural order of time and space.
They greet Macbeth with that famous triad of salutations, basically laying out the blueprint for his ambition.
First, Thane of Glamis, which, is a title he already holds by inheritance from his father, Sinel.
Okay, so that's true.
Then, the immediately shocking one, Thane of Cawdor, and third, the truly explosive promise, King Hereafter.
And Banquo, who is his equal in battle, he gets prophecies that are much more ambiguous, sort of paradoxical.
Right. He's told he'll be lesser than Macbeth and greater and not so happy yet much happier. But The really significant prediction, the one that basically guarantees Macbeth's future paranoia, is "Thou shalt get kings, though thou be none."
So Banquo is promised fatherhood of a royal line.
What's so fascinating is how quickly that second prophecy is confirmed. I mean, before the witches can even finish disappearing into the air, Ross and Angus show up.
Right on cue.
With the news that Duncan has condemned the traitorous Thane of Cawdor and, because of Macbeth's immense service, has given that very title to him.
So 2 out of 3 predictions are now instantly, undeniably true. The king himself says, "What he hath lost, noble Macbeth hath won." This immediate perfect validation is the psychological spark that just ignites everything.
Banquo even notes that Macbeth is instantly rapt withal, just completely consumed by these promises. Right. And then we get access to Macbeth's inner monologue, his aside, and we see that psychological seed of evil take root immediately. He's grappling with this supernatural soliciting.
And tries to wrestle with the moral implications, right?
Yeah.
He muses that the solicitation cannot be ill, cannot be good.
Right. It can't be entirely evil because it started with a verifiable truth. He is the Thane of Cawdor now. But the idea of achieving that third prophecy through violence, whose murder yet is but fantastical, that causes a genuine physical shock in him.
The very thought of murder doth unfix my hair, and make my seated heart knock at my ribs, against the use of nature.
He is physically horrified by the prospect of regicide, but he can't dismiss the thought. This is the moral man fighting the ambition inside him, and he concludes, almost passively.
If chance will have me king, why, chance may crown me without my stir. He's hoping fate will just do the dirty work for him.
And if he had just chosen to wait, maybe he could have remained honorable. But fate, or, Shakespeare's masterful plotting, throws the first major obstacle in his path almost instantly.
In Act 1, Scene 4, King Duncan announces his intention to name his son Malcolm as the heir apparent.
He names Malcolm the Prince of Cumberland, and this is the moment that passive hope of being crowned by chance just dies a very rapid death. Macbeth realizes the path to the throne isn't clear anymore, it is actively blocked.
The official announcement instantly changes his whole calculus. It goes from internal contemplation to, I need to take urgent external action. He sees Malcolm's new title as a step on which I must fall down or else o'erleap, for in my way it lies.
It is now an active choice. Resignation or criminal action.
And we get that incredible passage where he actively courts darkness to hide his intentions. He's basically praying for cosmic concealment.
Stars, hide your fires. Let not light see my black and deep desires. He knows what he wants is morally wrong, but the ambition, once it's been seeded, it demands to grow. The struggle is still there, but the intention to act is now forming in the dark.
Which brings us to, I think, the true catalyst of the play. This is the moment that spark of prophecy meets the fuel of human drive. Take Macbeth.
She gets his letter about the prophecies and the promotion, and her reaction is just immediately ruthless. It's not excitement about the crown.
No, it's an analysis of her husband's character flaws.
Exactly. She knows he wants to be great, but she fears his process.
She correctly identifies that he is too full of the milk of human kindness to catch the nearest way. He's got the ambition, but critically, he lacks, as she puts it, the illness should attend it.
He wants the outcome without the moral cost. She sees him as someone who wants to win, but would strongly win. He's paralyzed by moral indecision, and she recognizes that she has to, and I quote, chastise with the valor of my tongue all that impedes thee from the golden round.
She is taking on the role of enforcer for his ambition.
And to do that, she attempts this act of, profound psychological violence on herself. She calls out to the supernatural not for power, but for the removal of her own humanity, her own capacity for pity or remorse.
This is that famous terrifying appeal to the spirits that tend on mortal thoughts, crying, unsex me here, and fill me from the crown to the toe top full of direst cruelty.
She's asking to suppress all compunctious visitings of nature, any natural feelings of compassion or maternal softness that might get in the way.
It's such a radical statement. She asks them to make thick my blood so that remorse can't interfere. She literally wants to substitute her human milk for gall.
She is willfully rejecting what were considered the feminine virtues of compassion and nurture because she believes they are weaknesses that stand in the way of power.
So when Macbeth gets home, she's already committed to the act. She sees his moral hesitation written all over his face.
Your face, my Thane, is as a book where men may read strange matters. He just wears his guilt so openly.
And her instruction is just clear and chilling. Look like the innocent flower, but be the serpent undertick.
There's that theme again. Deception, hiding the foul beneath the fair, and she guarantees him that the entire night's great business, the murder of the king, is under her complete dispatch.
The tragedy of Act 1, when you really think about it, is that the witches just gave Macbeth a possibility.
Lady Macbeth gave him the inevitability. She closes off that option of passive waiting and provides the moral and the structural plan for the murder. Duncan's fate is sealed by her ambition, not his.
But even with her total commitment, Macbeth still has one last desperate moment of moral wrestling. And that brings us to Act 2, the original sin and the psychological aftermath.
As we move into Act 2, we're in the castle at Inverness. This is a place that Duncan has just praised for its pleasant seat and its delicate air.
So Shakespeare is juxtaposing this calm, pleasant setting with the inferno of moral debate that's happening inside Macbeth's head.
Macbeth's final soliloquy in Act 1, Scene 7 is his most profound stand against the crime. He meticulously details all the reasons against regicide. He lists them as moral, political, and personal liabilities.
First, there's the issue of trust. Duncan is there in double trust.
He's his subject and his kinsman, two bonds that are strong both against the deed, and he's also his host, who should against his murderers shut the door and not bear the knife myself. Breaking this triple trust, kinship, loyalty, hospitality, is a spiritual disaster.
And he even acknowledges the king's good character, saying Duncan's virtues will plead like angels, trumpet-tongued, against the deep damnation of his taking off.
There's no political justification. There's no argument that Duncan is some kind of tyrant. The only force driving Macbeth is purely selfish.
His final devastating summary of his motivation is just so key.
I have no spur to prick the sides of my intent, but only vaulting ambition which overleaps itself and falls on the other. This single image perfectly encapsulates this idea of ambition that is so excessive, so unrestrained, that it misses the target completely and just results in total ruin.
But Lady Macbeth sees this moment of retreat instantly. He tries to back out of the plan, citing the golden opinions of honor he's just won from the king. He wants to wear them in their newest gloss.
And she just unleashes the full force of her verbal assault. She dismantles his masculinity and his logic. She famously asks if his hope was the hope drunk wherein you dressed yourself.
She pushes him, saying if he backs out, he'll live a coward in thine own esteem. She equates moral weakness with failed manhood.
And to show her own commitment, she presents that horrifying ultimate example of ruthlessness.
It's so shocking.
She says she would have plucked my nipple from his boneless gums and dashed the brains out, had I so sworn as you have done to this. This is the anti-maternal image, the complete rejection of her own milk of human kindness. It's designed to shock him into action.
And it works.
It works. Macbeth's courage is successfully screwed to the sticking place. Lady Macbeth confirms the plan. She has successfully drugged the chamberlains with wine and wassail, making their drenched natures lie as in a death.
The guards are unconscious, ready to be framed, leaving Duncan totally defenseless.
But before he takes that final, irreversible step, Macbeth has his first major psychological break in Act 2, Scene 1, The Vision of the Dagger. This is so crucial because it shows his guilt manifesting before the crime.
He sees a fatal vision, a phantom weapon, the handle pointed toward his hand, almost beckoning him toward the chamber.
At first, he recognizes it for what it is. A dagger of the mind, a false creation proceeding from the heat-oppressed brain. He knows it's a hallucination born of stress and conflict.
But here's the dark irony. As he stares at it, the hallucination changes. It starts to show gouts of blood on the blade and the handle.
His mind is manifesting the bloody horror of the act before he has even committed it. It's blurring the line between thought and reality.
And he realizes, with this flash of insight, that the vision is the embodiment of the bloody business which informs thus to mine eyes. The murder is already taking shape not just in his hands but in his soul.
He is watching his own mind become an instrument of evil.
The deed itself, the actual murder, happens off stage. It's just a rapid and horrific silence. But the immediate aftermath in Act 2, Scene 2, is pure, paralyzing trauma.
Lady Macbeth is waiting, and she admits to a brief moment of human hesitation that she quickly dismisses.
She says, "Had he not resembled my father as he slept, I had done it."
That single line is such a powerful momentary flicker of residual humanity. But the moment is fleeting. When Macbeth comes back, he is completely broken, and he's made a critical mistake.
He brought the daggers back from the scene.
And the horror he feels is spiritual, not just physical. He recounts that while he was committing the deed, the sleeping attendants woke up and they cried, "God bless us and amen."
Then Macbeth, the man in most need of grace, found he could not say amen when they did say God bless us.
He has instantaneously forfeited his connection to grace and to spiritual peace. He realizes it immediately. I had most need of blessing, and amen stuck in my throat. He has murdered his own ability to find spiritual solace.
Which leads right into the famous Sleep No More motif. He says he heard a voice crying, "Macbeth does murder sleep."
And if we just pause to analyze this, sleep is so much more than just rest in Shakespeare. It's a profound spiritual condition.
Exactly. He describes sleep so poetically as the innocent sleep, sleep that knits up the raveled sleeve of care, the death of each day's life, sore labor's bath, balm of hurt minds.
So sleep is the natural process of spiritual and psychological repair.
And by committing a deed that is so unnatural, Macbeth has destroyed his own source of renewal. He has guaranteed perpetual torment for himself.
The guilt is just overwhelming and symbolic. He looks at his hands and he asks, will all great Neptune's ocean wash this blood clean from my hand?
And he answers his own question with this cosmic image of contamination. He says his hand would instead the multitudinous seas incarnadine, making the green one red. The blood on his hands is so immense, it would stain the entire ocean. It would turn the clean, green world crimson.
A total irrevocable contamination of nature itself.
And in stunning contrast, Lady Macbeth remains coldly pragmatic. She sees his panic, she scolds him, infirm of purpose, and she takes the daggers to go smear the sleeping grooms.
She reduces this monumental act of regicide to just a housekeeping task.
She seals her own doom with that terrifyingly simple line. A little water clears us of this deed. How easy is it then?
The ultimate hubris. She assumes that spiritual and moral stains can be removed with mere physical rinsing. It's a belief that will later come back to shatter her mind completely.
Then the world literally starts demanding entry. It's a signal that hell has been unleashed. Act 2, Scene 3 introduces the drunken porter,
who functions as comic relief, but it's very dark comic relief. The porter is the gatekeeper of Inverness, which he imagines is the gate of hell. He speaks of who might be knocking, a farmer who hanged himself, and an equivocator that could swear in both the scales against either scale.
And that concept of equivocation is so important here. It means the deliberate use of ambiguous language to hide the truth.
The porter is signaling that Macbeth's world, which is founded on a lie, is now subject to double talk and moral uncertainty. And it also gives the audience a much-needed breath before the discovery of the murder.
Macduff is the one who discovers the horror. And when Macbeth and Lennox return from the chamber, Macbeth, pretending to have this pious rage, admits he killed the chamberlains instantly.
He claims his violent love for Duncan, outrun the pauser, reason. It's a superb performance.
It really is. Because while Macduff starts to question the hasty killing, why would you kill the only witnesses, Lady Macbeth interrupts by feigning a faint.
And it diverts all critical questioning. She maintains control of the narrative.
Crucially, Duncan's sons, Malcolm and Donalbain, wisely decide they have to flee immediately for their lives. Malcolm goes to England and Donalbain to Ireland.
They know that there's daggers in men's smiles, the near in blood, the nearer bloody.
But this act of self-preservation unwittingly makes them the prime suspects. The rumor spreads that they bribed the servants and fled, which clears the path for Macbeth's coronation at Scone.
So his reign is established on a foundational lie.
And the final seal on the moral chaos of Act 2 comes from the descriptions of the unnatural world. Ross and an old man note these horrific omens.
The night is dark, it strangles the traveling lamp. A small mousing owl kills a powerful falcon. And most terrifyingly, Duncan's magnificent horses turned wild in nature, broke out of their stalls, and eat each other.
The hierarchy of nature itself has been broken by the act of regicide. The world is completely upside down.
Macbeth has the crown, but as Act 3 opens, we see immediately that the violence has only bought him paranoia. This brings us to Section 3, the spiral of tyranny and the ghost at the feast.
Banquo opens the act with his chilling suspicion.
Thou hast it now, King, Cawdor, Glamis, all of you daughter, as the weird women promised, and I fear thou playedst most foully for it. Macbeth knows Banquo knows about the prophecies and has a royalty of nature that makes him fearless and wise.
And Banquo isn't just a threat because of his knowledge, but because of the prophecy about his descendants, the issue who will eventually take the throne.
And this is what truly torments Macbeth. He's king, but he's fundamentally miserable. He reveals his deep fear of Banquo, recognizing his wisdom that doth guide his valor to act in safety. Banquo is a calculating threat, not a rash one.
This fear motivates the second wave of violence. Macbeth realizes he has filed his mind, defiled his soul, and committed regicide only for the benefit of Banquo's issue.
He laments that he has placed a fruitless crown on his head and holds a barren scepter. No son of his will succeed him.
He resolves that his eternal soul, his eternal jewel, was given to the common enemy of man, a direct reference to the devil.
Only to make them kings, the seeds of Banquo kings. He feels he has to act now to undo the promise that was made to his former friend.
And what's remarkable here is Macbeth's new manipulative confidence. He finds two men who are downtrodden, weary with disasters, and convinces them that Banquo is the source of all their bad luck.
He uses this powerful, cold rhetoric, comparing men to different breeds of dogs, hounds, spaniels, curs, distinguishing them in the valued file. He's dehumanizing them to justify their role as instruments of his violence. This is a massive character shift.
He's the master plotter now, not the hesitant partner.
And his growing secrecy is also a sign of his growing tyranny. He keeps the details of the assassination plot completely secret from Lady Macbeth.
He refers to the coming act as a deed of dreadful note. When she asks what's happening, he replies, "Be innocent of the knowledge, dearest Chuck, till thou applaud the deed."
He has become the dominant, darker force in the marriage, distancing himself from the woman who once had to guide his every step.
The assassination plot itself is only partially successful. The murderers kill Banquo, giving him 20 trenchant gashes on his head.
But the execution is fatally flawed. Fleance, Banquo's young son, escapes. The murderer reports, "Fleance escaped," which means they have lost best half of our affair.
And Macbeth immediately recognizes the threat is still alive.
He calls Banquo the grown serpent, and Fleance the worm that's fled. He understands that the worm hath nature that in time will venom breed, no teeth for the present.
The prophecy of Banquo's royal line is merely delayed, not destroyed. The fear remains.
And that tension culminates spectacularly in Act 3, Scene 4, the royal banquet. Macbeth is trying to project kingly confidence, but his control is just constantly being undercut.
First by the arrival of the bloody murderer who reports the mixed success.
And then the ghost arrives. Macbeth tries to toast the group, including our dear friend Banquo, whom we miss, only to find the bloody, spectral figure of Banquo sitting in his reserved seat.
This is a really crucial distinction from the dagger scene, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. The dagger was a hallucination of potential guilt, visible only to him, urging him toward the crime. The ghost is a hallucination of actual guilt, a projection of overwhelming remorse, and it's exposed in front of his entire court.
His descent into public mania is immediate. He accuses his guests, "Which of you have done this?" He starts raving, challenging the specter, "Never shake thy gory locks at me."
And Lady Macbeth is in total damage control. She frantically dismisses the outburst, calling it a strange infirmity, and she tries to link it back to the dagger he saw earlier. She pulls him aside, desperately asking, "Are you a man?"
The same line she used to spur him to kill Duncan.
But this time it's lost its power.
Macbeth's horror, when the ghost appears a second time, causes him to command it to leave. "Avaunt and quit my sight. Let the earth hide thee. Thy bones are marrowless, thy blood is cold."
The feast is ruined, the guests are dismissed immediately, and the consequence of his violence is public humiliation and exposure. Alone with his wife, Macbeth determines that he's now trapped in this vicious, self-perpetuating cycle. It will have blood, they say. Blood will have blood.
He has stepped into that metaphorical river of blood, and he realizes that returning is as tedious as go o'er. His violence is no longer driven by ambition.
No, it's driven by the necessity of survival and crushing paranoia. His only answer is to go back to the source of his misery, the Weird Sisters.
He's completely dependent now. He knows he can no longer trust his own eyes, his own wife, or his own sanity. His only recourse is to consult the powers of hell again.
Which leads us directly into Section 4, consulting the fiends and uncontrollable violence.
He resolves to be bloody, bold, and resolute. He is now fully committed to this path of evil. He will use the worst means the worst.
Act 4, Scene 1, opens with the witches preparing their charm for powerful trouble, and the ingredients they list for the witch's brew. They're not just random, grotesque images. They are a litany of anti-nature and societal corruption, explicitly designed to create chaos.
It's pure folkloric nightmare material, isn't it? We hear things like fillet of a fenny snake and wool of bad and tongue of dog.
But also deeply disturbing, almost cultural forms of cruelty, like the liver of blaspheming Jew and the finger of birth-strangled babe ditch delivered by a drab.
The purpose of this gruesome inventory is to establish that Macbeth is dealing with absolute concentrated malice. He demands the witches satisfy his questions, even if their actions untie the winds against the churches or cause castles topple on their warders' heads.
He has to have certainty at any cost.
And what he gets is certainty masked as deception. The three famous apparitions, all designed to keep the word of promise to our ear and break it to our hope.
Exactly. Fulfilling that very concept of equivocation the porter introduced, the first apparition, the armed head, delivers what he already suspects. Beware Macduff, beware the Thane of Fife.
And Macbeth acknowledges this harped my fear aright. It just confirms his existing paranoia.
Then the second apparition, a bloody child, offers the massive promise that fundamentally shifts his confidence.
Be bloody, bold, and resolute. Laugh to scorn the power of man, for none of woman born shall harm Macbeth.
Macbeth is instantly reassured by this supposed impossibility. But notice that violence is now his default setting. Even though he feels safe, he decides to make assurance double sure and kill Macduff anyway. He won't risk relying on the charm alone.
And the third apparition, a child crowned with a tree in his hand, gives him what he sees as the ultimate shield.
Macbeth shall never be overthrown until great Birnam Wood to high Dunsinane Hill shall come against him.
He calls these sweet bodements good. He reasons that a forest can't move, so his life is guaranteed. But the witches aren't done.
No, Macbeth demands one more thing. Will Banquo's issue ever reign?
And this is where the political context becomes so vital for the audience. Despite the witches' warnings, they grant him the final, devastating vision.
The show of 8 kings, followed by Banquo, who smiles and points at the line of his descendants. Critically, these kings carry twofold balls and treble scepters.
This is a direct, deliberate political nod to the play's original audience under King James I, who was King of Scotland and then crowned King of England, signifying the union of the two countries.
So Shakespeare is confirming to the audience that the king on the throne at the time, James, is legitimately descended from the very Banquo whose ghost is now haunting Macbeth.
So Macbeth's entire bloody enterprise was ultimately fruitless. He secured the throne for his rival's descendants.
And he is enraged. He now realizes his path is meaningless. He receives the news that Macduff has fled to England, and his response is swift, brutal, and entirely arbitrary. It lacks any of the moral hesitation he had in Act 1.
He decides to give to the edge of the sword his wife, his babes, and all unfortunate souls that trace him in his line. This slaughter is purely vindictive. It's driven by fury against Macduff's flight, not any kind of military necessity.
This marks the transition from, necessary regicide to wanton, arbitrary tyranny.
We really have to pause and examine the sheer cruelty of Act 4, Scene 2. Lady Macduff is left defenseless, lamenting that her husband loves us not. She compares her position to the poor wren will fight her young ones in her nest against the owl.
And that tragic dialogue between Lady Macduff and her son is just heartbreaking. It establishes their innocence right before the brutality. The child speaks about traitors and honest men, demonstrating this clear moral compass that is instantly and mercilessly extinguished by the murderers.
This scene proves that Macbeth is no longer just a usurper. He is a monster driven by pure malice.
Meanwhile, Macduff has found Malcolm in England, and Malcolm, being the son of a murdered king, is rightly wary of potential spies sent by Macbeth. He has to test Macduff's sincerity.
He tests his loyalty by pretending to be worse than Macbeth himself. He claims to be riddled with voluptuousness and staunchless avarice, saying there is not in the legions of horrid hell can come a devil more damned in evils to top Macbeth.
Malcolm meticulously lays out all the king-becoming graces that he claims to lack: justice, verity, temperance, stableness. This speech is a political treatise, really. It's a clear definition of what a good king must be, contrasting the divine right of rule with the hellish tyranny that's currently plaguing Scotland.
And Macduff's sincere patriotic despair, "Oh, Scotland, Scotland," that convinces Malcolm of his integrity.
So Malcolm reviews the truth. He has a massive invasion force ready, supplied by King Edward, led by the experienced General Seward with 10,000 warlike men.
And right at this moment of potential hope, Ross arrives with the dreadful news of the slaughter of Macduff's entire household.
Macduff's grief is just so raw and immediate. He asks if they were all killed. My children too. And when Ross tells him wife, children, servants, all that could be found, he asks that heart-shattering question.
He has no children.
Implying Macbeth can't possibly understand the scope of his pain.
Malcolm urges him to dispute it like a man, meaning take revenge. But Macduff insists, I must also feel it as a man.
He channels his profound, justified grief immediately into a singular, focused revenge. Be this the whetstone of your sword. Let grief convert to anger.
While Macduff finds his righteous cause back at Dunsinane, the consequences of that original sin finally catch up with Lady Macbeth in Act 5, Scene 1.
We see her through the eyes of the doctor and a gentlewoman during the famous sleepwalking scene. She can no longer tolerate darkness. She must have light by her continually.
She's terrified of the very shadows she once courted to hide her black and deep desires.
Her actions are ritualistic and agonizing. She's reliving the night of the murder, obsessively trying to wash the imaginary evidence away. Out, damn spot, out, I say. This is the mental reality of her moral failure.
The psychological contrast with Act 2 is just devastating. The woman who once casually dismissed the crime with "a little water clears us of this deed"
Now realizes that the stain is cosmic. She laments that all the perfumes of Arabia will not sweeten this little hand. The sensory reality of the blood, once dismissed, has now overwhelmed her mind completely.
And in her disturbed state, she reveals details about both great crimes, Duncan's murder, who would have thought the old man to have had so much blood in him, and Banquo's murder.
She confirms her knowledge and participation. Banquo's buried. He cannot come out on turf.
The doctor, helpless, concludes she suffers from a disease beyond my practice. She needs the divine than the physician.
The ultimate message is clear. The unnatural deed has led directly to an unnatural mental breakdown, which cannot be cured by earthly medicine. She is psychologically mirroring the chaos she helped unleash on Scotland.
The end is approaching rapidly now. The combined English and rebellious Scottish forces are marching toward Dunsinane, which brings us to the conclusion in Act 5, the end of the tyrant.
Macbeth, despite all the mounting evidence of revolt, the thanes serving him only in command, nothing in love, he clings desperately to the literal terms of the apparition's promises.
He maintains this defiant confidence, stating he cannot taint with fear. He trusts the prophecies implicitly.
No man that's born of woman shall e'er have power upon thee until Birnam Wood remove to Dunsinane. He lashes out, calling his servants cowards and lily-livered boys.
But underneath all that defiance, there is a profound weariness. He admits, I have lived long enough.
He laments the lack of what should accompany old age: honor, love, obedience, troops of friends. He knows he's only earned curses, not loud, but deep, mouth honor, breath, which the poor heart would fain deny and dare not. He's spiritually exhausted.
And then comes the news of Lady Macbeth's death. The gentlewoman reports, the queen, my lord, is dead.
Malcolm later confirms she died by self in violent hands. Suicide.
And Macbeth's response is the play's most famous articulation of despair. He doesn't react with grief, but with this profound existential weariness.
She should have died hereafter. There would have been a time for such a word. Her death is just an inconvenient distraction in his nihilistic countdown.
This launches his iconic soliloquy, summarizing his entire view of life as a meaningless, slow march toward extinction. Tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow creeps in this petty pace from day to day to the last syllable of recorded time.
And it culminates in that ultimate statement of existential nihilism, the realization that his ambition, his violence, his suffering, it was all for nothing.
Life's but a walking shadow, a poor player that struts and frets his hour upon the stage, and then is heard no more. It is a tale told by an idiot, full of sound and fury, signifying nothing.
The moment he hits that peak of despair, the final, dreadful reality hits him. The messenger reports that Birnam Wood is moving.
The fulfillment of the first great deception. Malcolm had ordered every soldier to hew him down a bough and bear it before him, masking the true size of their army and making it look like a moving grove approaching Dunsinane.
And Macbeth realizes he has been played by the exact same kind of ambiguity that started his journey. He starts to doubt the equivocation of the fiend that lies like truth.
The promise held true literally, but it betrayed him utterly in its meaning.
Trapped, he decides he will die with harness on our back, still fighting, even though his fate now seems sealed by cosmic forces.
The inevitable final confrontation comes in Act 5, Scene 8, when he meets Macduff. Macbeth actually tries to avoid him at first.
He says, "My soul is too much charged with blood of thine already," referring to the slaughter of Macduff's family. It's this momentary, futile flicker of regret.
Macduff ignores the plea, stating, "My voice is in my sword." Macbeth, still clinging to that second prophecy, boasts of his charmed life which must not yield to one of woman born.
And then the ultimate reveal that shatters his last remaining assurance. Macduff tells him, "Despair thy charm," and reveals that he was from his mother's womb untimely ripped.
A birth by C-section. meaning he was not born in the conventional sense of natural delivery.
The psychological terror is instantaneous. Macbeth finally recognizes the juggling fiends that palter with us in a double sense, that keep the word of promise to our ear and break it to our hope. The witches were the ultimate equivocators.
Using technical truth to achieve moral deceit.
And despite the complete moral and supernatural betrayal, that warrior spirit of Bellona's bridegroom surfaces one last time. He refuses Macduff's demand to yield and be displayed as a monster.
He chooses to fight to the end. Yet I will try the last. Before my body I throw my warlike shield. Lay on, Macduff.
Macduff prevails, he slays Macbeth, and he returns to Malcolm carrying the tyrant's cursed head. The chaos is ended with the restoration of the rightful political order.
And the final resolution sees Malcolm proclaimed King of Scotland at Scone. In his first act as king, he promotes the Thanes, granting them the new title of Earls, a new Scottish title that signifies the start of a new, legitimate era of rule.
And it also shows the influence of English political structure.
So if we synthesize everything we've uncovered in this deep dive, the play is just a masterclass in the corrosive nature of unchecked ambition and the futility of relying on deceitful promises.
Macbeth gained the crown, but he lost every single thing that makes life worth living: his peace, his honor, his wife, and ultimately the meaning of his own existence.
The sources, particularly the narrative descriptions from the Folger, they really emphasize the total cost of the violence on the country. The progression is so clear.
Prophecy creates the spark.
Lady Macbeth provides the fuel.
The murder destroys the soul.
And the resulting tyranny creates the ghosts and apparitions that torment the usurper until the world literally rises up in vengeance.
And we have to remember that the core lesson here is really about critical thinking. The ability to identify and reject the temptation of things that palter in a double sense, whether that's in fiction or in the real world. That ability to analyze source material objectively is what saves you from the Macbeth trajectory.
So, as Malcolm takes the throne, there is a promise of restoration. The source material mentions that the victorious Malcolm promised to call home our exiled friends abroad.
Right, Malcolm fled to England and Donalbain fled to Ireland. And while the tyrant is dead and the world is free, this raises a really important question for you, the listener, to consider. With all that history of betrayal, murder, and political mistrust, with the ghosts of Banquo and the children of Macduff just lingering, will the deep-seated political mistrust truly allow for a peaceful, unified kingdom?
Right.
What is the true cost of the violence on the country's psyche, even after the dead butcher is removed?
Does the stain of bloodshed ever truly wash away? Or does it, like the blood on Lady Macbeth's hands, forever taint the political landscape?
It's a truly provocative thought that only a deep dive into these rich materials can uncover.
And that is the kind of insight we absolutely love to share here on Book on a Shelf. We hope you feel thoroughly well-informed about the psychological and political depth of Macbeth.
The detail provided by the Folger Shakespeare Library makes the terror and the tragedy all the more vivid and all the more relevant.
If you enjoyed this detailed analysis and deep dive, please make sure you like, share, and subscribe to the channel right here on Book on a Shelf. And stay tuned for the next episode.